This is an overview of some of the key concepts for Chapter 14. You should have a basic understanding of the vocabulary in this unit, including what oceanography is. Also, the 71% on this slide is to demonstrate and tell you that there is 71% of our planet is covered in water. The majority of this water is not fresh water or useful to us. You should also know the 4 main ocean basins and their locations, be able to label them out on a map. You should also know which is largest, second, third, and the smallest. They're listed here in order: Pacific, Atlantic, Indian, and Arctic. You should also have a basic understanding of some of the features of the ocean floor. They're very similar to the features on the surface of our Earth. They include volcanoes, mountains, trenches, and plateaus. If you are a person who is studying the topography of the ocean floor, you are studying bathymetry, another vocabulary word you should have a basic understanding of. There is a distinct difference between using sonar to look at the bottom of the ocean and using satellite to understand the topography of the ocean. Sonar has to use sound waves that get sent down to the bottom of the ocean. They then get reflected back once they've hit the bottom of the ocean, and a sensor intercepts the echo. There's a monitoring of time it takes for the echo to return, and from that, a computer generates an image of how long it took the sound wave to hit the floor, bounce back up, and creates an image of what the floor would look like. Sonar stands for sound, navigation, and ranging. This takes a very long time to do sonar because the boat has to move very slowly and has to zigzag back and forth across the location. The majority of our knowledge of the ocean floor topography does not come from sonar. It is actually satellites that have given us a better understanding of what the ocean floor looks like. Satellites actually look at features of the surface of the ocean. There are very slight differences in the height of the ocean surface due to gravity, and those differences in the ocean surface are due to features on the floor. So a satellite will actually bounce microwaves off of the ocean surface to detect mild differences. For example, if there's a trench, there's a mild dip in the surface of the ocean. If there was a mountain, there'd be a mild raise in the surface of the ocean. Satellites can detect these differences. Our eyes cannot. We also use submersibles to study the bottom of the ocean, but these are very expensive. The first one was used in 1934. One of the most famous ones is the Triste submersible, which studied the Mariana Trench, and one of the first to take a look at what is now called Challenger Deep, the deepest part of our ocean. There are 2 different kinds of submersibles, ROVs and AUVs. This simply means that some are remote controlled and other ones are controlled by a person inside of them. You should have a basic understanding of the features of the ocean floor. For example, when you are swimming in the ocean, you are swimming along the continental shelf. This is a very gently sloping area that extends from the shoreline out. This is where we do most of our fishing, where we have our oil rigs set up at, and where we pick up the majority of minerals, sands, and gravels that we use. The continental slope comes after the continental shelf. The continental slope is the boundary between the continental crust and the oceanic crust. This is located right along this area here. It is a very deep-sided valley, and there's a lot of sediment that is settled down onto this slope from currents. So first comes the continental shelf, then you experience the continental slope, and finally we get to what is called the Continental Rise. There's no trenches at this location. It is simply an area where after the main slope downwards occurs, the surface of the ocean begins to come mildly up and even out and lead into the Abyssal Plain. Trenches are the deepest parts of the ocean and occur where plates converge. The word converge means to come together. One of the main plates or ocean trenches that you should know about where there is convergence is along the Peru-Chile Trench. You should also know the location of the Mariana Trench because this is where the deepest part of the ocean is, Challenger Deep. Along the Peru-Chile Trench, we have a trench that is created in the ocean, and because of the convergence of those plates, we have mountains that form right along the coast. Abyssal plains are simply the deepest, flattest parts out in the open ocean. There is a lot of sediment that settles here due to currents. Seamounts are simply volcanic peaks underwater. Some of the seamounts that are most familiar to you would include islands, such as the Hawaiian Islands. Some seamounts underwater do not become islands if they never reach the surface. A guyot is an island that sinks and flattens below the surface. A guyot is what eventually the Hawaiian Islands will become. You should also know that mid-ocean ridges are typically along the center of most of the ocean basins. At ridges, this is where we see seafloor spreading. The plates are pulling apart and magma rises up between these plates. It is the location of the new formation of crust on our planet. These locations also are typically where we would find hydrothermal vents, which are simply areas where we have mineral-rich water that gets heated when it gets pulled in to the crust of our planet and heated by the magma and then comes back out at very high temperatures. You should be able to draw in the mid-Atlantic ridge here on a map for your test. Finally, we get a lot of resources from the ocean. Some of the resources include oil and natural gases, fossil fuels that we get from drilling. We also get gas hydrates from bacteria, pick up sand and gravel, and pull many metals out of the ocean. Simple things such as table salt can be used from the ocean as well.